Absolute mayhem in the Harbour City. The pressure mounts on Nathan Buckley, and no Neil, no worries as the Lions leave big question marks on the power. All that and more to come from the round so far. Brought to you by AAMI. But Kane Corns, remarkable scenes in Sydney tonight. The Swans in the front here, final 15 seconds. They called this one play on.
Oh, that's got to be a mark. So they've made an error there. I think in every other game this year that would have been paid a mark. I'm not sure why it wasn't on this occasion now. And there's also this one, settled on road bottom. Now, I'm okay with this. If there was 2 or 3 more seconds, that would have been paid holding the ball. But time ran out for the Cats, and they absolutely dominated this game of footy, but weren't good enough to win.
The first one called play on because it wasn't 15 metres. Chris Scott saying post-game he felt it was 15 metres. I know a lot of people will agree with him, but the Cats had their chances to win this game. They led by 29 points in the second quarter and then almost fell asleep. The Swans came with a rush through the third, and then this happened in the final term. Ollie Florent, 8 points of difference, put the Swans within a kick.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the big moments in this game. What about the numbers for Geelong? If you look at it, plus 26 inside 50s for the game. They dominated contested possession, plus 71 in uncontested. They had their moments. They go up a nice lead here with Dowhouse on the goal line. Tom Hawkins had a couple of opportunities. Here's Rowbottom kicking a very big goal with 3 minutes and 40 to go on the clock. And then it was Tom Papley, brilliant, good play on, understanding the situation of the game from Luke Parker. Get him in a one-on-one and let your star forward go to work. This is just so clever. Could have gone on his right foot, somehow had a sixth sense to turn on his left, got the couple of metres freedom that he needed to slot a big, big goal with 1:33 on the clock. And what a performance to keep Sydney in touch with the top 4 and keep their season alive against all sorts of odds.
Geelong kicked 2 goals 6 in the last quarter. Sydney kicked 4 goals straight. It was a difference in the game, as was this man, Tom Hickey. Kane, first game back from what we thought was a 6 or 8 week PCL. He only missed 1 week, back into the team, and he gave Reece Stanley a bath tonight.
Yeah, he absolutely did. 20 disposals, 10 clearances, one of the best clearance players in the competition, would you believe that? And he forced Geelong to make a big move, so they had to go with Blitzarves in the ruck because of instances like this where he was just bullying the Geelong rucks, and Stanley spent the last 12 minutes on the ground because of efforts like this. He was far too tough, waltzing around. That effort from Stanley will be shown, and I doubt whether he plays next week. So they put Blitzarves in there. They got a response from him. He was more athletic and he competed harder, but they almost went down 1 rotation less, the Cats, just because they weren't confident in putting Reece Stanley out there.
Remarkable turnaround, given Reece Stanley is one of their best the week prior against Nick Naitanui. The Cats are 4-3 now. Massive game against Richmond on Friday night. You still got question marks on the Cats now after this loss?
I think you have to. Like, they're good enough, and when they play their way, they look like they can absolutely beat anyone like they did last week. But away from home and away from GMHBA, they haven't got it done. So until they can do that, there'll be serious questions about them, their age, and the way they get it done late in games.
To the MCG next, the Pies now 1-6. It was the second lowest crowd they've played in front of at the MCG since 1988. Before we get to what unravelled for the Pies, let's go back to the start of the day. Here's Nathan Buckley on Fox Footy before the bounce.
We just haven't brought consistent heat on the opposition as often as we would like. So that's what we want to see. And we're coming up against a side who have been as good as any this year at doing that. So that's a challenge.
So they wanted to bring the heat before the game came. This is the very first centre bounce.
Yeah, so this is the most concerning aspect. Nathan Buckley, that was his one focus, to bring the heat, and they did the opposite. So they just waltzed in here expecting an easy game against a young side at home, and they got seriously whacked. The way that Gold Coast were able to do this and move the ball from a position of strength from Collingwood, which should have been forced down the line time after time, they were able to switch angles, and the Collingwood players in defence were 2, 3, 4 metres off, which gave them the overlap. And then you get moments like this where it's just not life and death. Are you playing for your coach here? So that's the biggest question mark for Collingwood. They look psychologically wrecked, the Collingwood players, and that was their focus, to bring the heat, and you get efforts like this. This is the last line of Collingwood's forward line. You should not be able to transition the ball as easy as this and kick a walk-in goal under basically no pressure. So that doesn't take any talent. That just takes effort, and right now Collingwood aren't giving an effort for the coach, which if you're Nathan Buckley and the Collingwood hierarchy, the most concerning thing.
Buckley said post-game they've lost their DNA when it comes to defending. They allowed the Suns 146 marks. 146 marks on the MCG on their home deck. When you have a look at the pressure acts by player, the Suns had 7 of the top 9 players on the ground in terms of pressure acts. That talks to what you're speaking about.
It does. So once again, that's not a high draft pick. That's not a high-paid player. That's not talent. That's just effort. And that's wanting to give an effort when you're 1-5 heading into a game that you have to get your season back on. You know the pressure's coming if you drop this one. You know it's all going to lead the footy shows on Monday about your coach and Nathan Buckley's future if you drop it. And that was what Collingwood served up, which was, in a word, disgraceful today.
We go to their deplorable disposal. They're the worst kicking side in the competition this year, the Pies, and it got even worse today.
Yeah, so you can live with this sort of stuff because they've got a lot of talent out of the side. But this has been their issue for 18 months now, just their decision-making and execution going forward. That's why Darcy Moore has 5 touches today. Doesn't matter who you put forward, put Tony Lockett down there, and he's not going to have an impact on the game because of this. And it's even their better players. I think Pendlebury's ball use and decision-making this year has been well down on the great ball user that he has been for 15 years. So it's their good players, it's their lesser lights, doesn't matter. They just make poor decisions going inside 50. And then you get players who want to be paid $1 million time after time doing that. Jordan De Goey's missed more goals, I reckon, gut feel from that position than any player in the competition, which isn't good enough for a man of his talent.
And all this talk about the Pies youth, they had 10 players today, Collingwood, with 100 games or more. The Suns had 4. So it can't have been down to youth today. Pre-game, Graham Wright, speaking on ABC, said that everything was tracking in the right direction for Nathan Buckley. It feels like today at 1-6, it takes a bit of a turn now.
Yeah, so all week it was, yes, we believe we can play finals. That's the goal, we want to play finals. Now that's this year.
Yeah.
Now, I think that performance today is a massive reality check for the Collingwood board, footy boss Graham Wright, for the coach and for the players. I'm just not sure how it plays out from here. If they do replace Nathan Buckley, who is it?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to go with a lesser light, untried coach. They're going to want a big whale. That's the Collingwood way that they do it. It has to start at Clarkson, which you would think would be a no, and then where do you go to from here? So that would be my only query. If it's not Nathan Buckley, which it's looking like it won't be with performances like that today, I'm just not sure who it is.
And they've said the final third of the season. That's still 8 weeks away. So let's see if that's fast-tracked the decision on Nathan Buckley. To the Gabba next, Kane. Port. We thought they would come in with a few questions to be answered on this one, but it was all Brisbane in this.
Turning out to be Brisbane's bunny, Port Adelaide. They've lost their last 4 against the Lions, and they just look like a completely different side to the side that we've seen this year. Port Adelaide have been hungry. They've been tough. They've brought extreme pressure. They've been using the ball beautifully going inside 50. Didn't get any of that. And this man, Harris Andrews, 8 intercepts in the first quarter. Had the big job on Charlie Dixon. Not only did he shut Charlie Dixon out of the game, he was the best player on the ground.
Do we need to start questioning Charlie now in these big games?
He's out of form. He's absolutely out of form. He was sensational last year. He's lost a bit of confidence. You can tell he's lost his physical presence. He's missing a lot of easy opportunities in front of goal. And the ball use to him today, granted, was poor, but across the season, he's no doubt been down on form.
And this is the Powers' first big test since they went down to West Coast in the West, and they went to water tonight. Look at some of these efforts here. We wanted to pinpoint this fumble from half forward. The game's well and truly gone, but this sort of sums up their night.
Yeah, they fumbled. They missed so many tackles. They were outworked. They were out-hunted. The ground ball numbers were just so lopsided in favour of Brisbane. So efforts like this, it's Archie up against Aaliyah. Charlie Cameron couldn't have an absolute day out. He had 8 shots on goal, kicked 4 goals for. He ran rings around Port Adelaide's defence. So any thought that Port Adelaide were the premiership favourites is now gone. They are well back amongst the pack after that performance away against West Coast and now Brisbane. And who have they actually beaten this year would be the other question mark. The win against Richmond on the Friday night was significant, but the other wins have come against the lesser lights this year. You've
been in this room before. What's being said here?
Well,
when you've gone down against another contender.
It's a massive dent to your pride and your ego. And now he's extremely confident in his group. He said that even after the West Coast loss. I think you'd have to be questioning it now, away from home. Yes, they've got some injuries, but so did Brisbane. No Berry, no Neil, the Brownlow medalist, and they were absolutely beaten up with a pretty uninspiring performance physically tonight for Port Adelaide. So they definitely drop out of that top 4 calculations. But credit to Brisbane, they're right back in it. I reckon the last 2 weeks for the Lions, they've been so impressive with how tough they are. They're right back amongst it, Brisbane. Make no mistake about that. They're playing a great brand of footy. Their forward line's potent, their midfield's tough, and their defence, as you saw, held up tonight.
Danaher was big in the first half. Hugh McCluggage, again, impressive in the midfield. Time to get to our AAMI clangers. Now, Kane, this is the MCG today. The Pies trying to be a little bit funny with their banner, referring back to something that happened 3 years ago. The game was in the afternoon. They couldn't get it done even during the day.
Yeah, and when you perform like you did, it's always a risk. Now, this is our man Caleb Poulter getting his first game. How good's this? Unfortunately, the frame that they were giving was smashed by McCreary. And then Darcy Moore comes in with bare feet.
Your best player.
And walks on broken glass, and he had 5 touches. That was an omen. That was a sign.
Speaking of omen, this is the man in the crowd here. Richmond couldn't hit the side of the barn. I quite like the costume. Tom Lynch kicked 3 goals, 5 for the night. Not even the cheer squad could get him over the line, Kane. And then even the Tigers cheer squad having luck.
This is the worst shot of the year.
We thought Cherry in round 1 was bad.
No, this is the worst shot, I reckon, in the last 10 years. And it probably cost the Bulldogs. Look at the score there. It was the last hope to stay within touch. But he's had a good year. Aaron Norton will let him off. But yeah, some unforgettable moments so far in round 7.
The Tigers only kicked 2 goals in the first half. Then there was no Dustin Martin, no Kane Lambert, no Dion Prestia in the midfield. You put it on Trent Cotchin during the week. He responded.
He did respond. He absolutely responded. What he does have, Trent Cotchin, is a great sense of the big moment, and he did this in the third quarter. What about some of his numbers? 12 disposals, 4 clearances alone when they were down at half-time. And what I also reckon it points to a very good coach who can come in at half-time, have 20 minutes to adjust, move some magnets around, and make a change to your game. They lifted their intensity. They lowered their eyes going inside 50. This man also, Bolton, is having an unbelievable All-Australian year. Behind Dustin Martin, he's been... he's their most important midfielder. I reckon he'll be winning their best and fairest. So he's unsigned. I reckon I said 5 weeks ago Richmond need to get him signed up. I'd be nervous that he's still not signed because of efforts like that. But what a club. With the players that they had out up against the red-hot Western Bulldogs down at half-time, to pull that off in the second half was a big up yours to anyone who wrote them off this week.
Well, they get Dusty back against the Cats, but they're going to be without their skipper for a couple of weeks. Trent Cotchin, another soft tissue, Kane.
He does one every year, or at least probably
one.
At least one, usually 2. Now, fortunately for him, he always gets back in time for finals and premierships and hasn't missed. But I reckon the last 3 years he's had probably 1, maybe 2 significant hamstrings. They'll be cautious with it, getting back second half of the year.
Now, we've been holding this stat back for a couple of weeks. We've thought it was finally time to unleash it. The sprint efforts with the Dogs, some of their big wins, they've out-sprinted with their efforts against some opposition. Just shows in round 7, and then also that narrow win in round 2. If you out-sprint the Dogs, you can go with them on the scoreboard.
Yeah, we've gone deep here. The hardest running, most powerful midfield in the game. And it's not only the distance that they run, it's the speed that they run at. So if you can match that with your sprint efforts, and whenever the game has got close, you can see the opposition have matched them for sprint efforts, not just distance covered, you'll be in the game. So message is, if you're fit and you can run fast with the Dogs to shut them down and go with them in the midfield, you'll be in the game.
To Marvel Stadium today, St Kilda is a game they simply had to win, and they delivered. Their biggest win since 2017. Hawthorn's biggest loss since 2017. Kane, and Brad Hill was right amongst it.
Yeah, how do we judge St Kilda this year? It's just impossible to tell. Look, they haven't beaten much today. Hawthorn don't have a lot as it is, but when you take out O'Meara and Wingard, they're 2 most talented players, and you're not left with much, unfortunately. Paddy Ryder made a huge influence for them. Just his variety with tap work and then releasing some pressure off Rowan Marshall. So you can tell how much they've missed Ryder and what a different side they are. But I'm not really ready to give St Kilda all that much credit because of how inconsistent and how poor they've been this year. So hopefully they can put 3, 4, 5 weeks together in a row and keep their season alive.
Well, they recovered 13% on the ladder today. Zach Jones is our Saturday star, Kane. He was held to 10 disposals last week in that embarrassing loss to Port Adelaide. He had 24 to half-time today.
Yeah, what I did love and what I thought was a great sign was Hill and Jones arguing at training during the week. Now, that happens all the time. It's just happens that the cameras caught it. I thought it was quite respectful. It was a little bit heated, but that sort of stuff should happen and you should care. That was a sign that these 2 players cared, and you got a response from Jones, who was the best player on the ground. Now, not sure he's ever been tagged in his life, Zach Jones, but there was a thought that he should have been today, and probably rightly so. And then Hill off half-back was a good coaching move from Brett Ratton. He's been awful. I think 10 combined disposals in the last 2 weeks, and he got his game going. And look at the effort from Jones here. You notice where he started from, gets in there to lay a shepherd for Max King and the Saints get a goal out of that. So that's the sort of stuff that wins your respect in the competition and the stuff that Brett Ratton will be highlighting on the tape on Monday.
Jones finished with 37 disposals. Seb Ross had 15 score involvements. You mentioned Bradley Hill. His coach leapt to his defence again post-game, saying the recent criticism has been unfair, and it's these sort of efforts that are going to win over his teammates.
The recent criticism hasn't been unfair, by no means.
Especially when you're on 800.
Even Brendan Lade, their midfield coach, said they put it on him ahead of the Port Adelaide game. They didn't get a response. So that's what you need to see. I mean, you're not going to do that every effort you go, but you need some intensity for Brad Hill. When he doesn't have the football, what is he doing? Keep your eyes on him for that. That was a great sign. And he wasn't up against much opposition or much pressure today, but a massive confidence builder to, I can still do this. I can run and I'm a really important player for this team, and he showed that today. And
strange selection by the Hawks with 10 players over 193 centimetres, with a couple of those players managed. To Adelaide Oval next, Kane. It's a bit of a statement from the Giants, and it started in the midfield.
Oh, gee, they were tough. Mumford just has to ruck. So if he's fit, he's got to be the starting ruck, because the 3 games he's played, they've been such a different side in the midfield. So we've seen Leon Cameron be really frustrated by his midfield in recent months and years, but they were just enormous today. I thought Callum Ward's response, Josh Kelly was great. This man Green, bit of midfield, bit of forward, had multiple shots on goal, kick 3, and then the forward line functioned as a result. Shout out to Lachie Whitfield, who's had 12 weeks off and came in and had a huge influence off the wing, and just the work that he's done with his fitness. Like 28 degrees here in Adelaide today, run out the game so well, and there you go, Mumford driving it again, and the new forwards, including Jesse Hogan, getting on the end of a couple, and there's Green for one of his 3 goals today. It was a phenomenal, tough performance from a Giants side away from home in hostile conditions.
Taranto had 35. Josh Kelly had 27 at 85%. You mentioned Whitfield, 700 metres gained for him today. Jesse Hogan kicked 4 goals. The leading goal kicker on the ground, Kane. Almost a third chance for him in his first game as a Giant.
Yeah, well, it's just a bonus because they give up hardly anything to get him. They don't have to pay him a lot. I reckon Fremantle will be contributing to that wage, and he's the replacement for Jeremy Cameron that you need. He's always had a high work rate. I reckon when he has played, certainly on the field he has. There was some great delivery today, and the Crows do have lesser lights in defence, but when you get delivered like that, you're going to make the most of it. If he can compete, if his work rate is high and he can do this, he'll be a good pick-up for them. And hopefully he's beginning to start to win some respect back from the competition.
The Crows started hot. They only kicked 4 goals on their home deck today. You wanted to take a look at their leading goal kickers for the season. Tex, we know the seasons he's had, but it falls away a bit from there.
Yeah, when he's well held, Tex, as he was by Taylor, who else is next? So Thilthorpe kicked 5 last week, but their small forwards is what I want to notice. So they're at least just a goal a game for James Rowe, 1 goal per game, and Mick Henry and Murphy under a goal a game. Now, all of those players have played every game bar Darcy Fogarty, who was a sub today. So they need to take some pressure off Taylor Walker. They're far too Walker-focused. And when he's beaten like he was today, he's well beaten by Taylor, who else is going to kick you a score for the Crows? And that's why you get 4 goals on the scoreboard today only.
Time to get to the ladder for the first time this year on the round so far, Kane. And the Dogs, they've given Melbourne the chance to jump up and take top spot.
Yeah, Port Adelaide's still in 3rd as a result of Geelong losing to Sydney today. That may change their percentages good. Massive game for Fremantle. I want to put it on Fremantle. Stop being bullied in the derby and don't call it a rivalry until you can stand up. They've lost their last 10 by an average of 37 points, so that's a huge game tomorrow. Gold Coast and the Giants stay in touch with the top 8.
And the Pies traded out their first pick right now. The Giants have it, and it's currently sitting at pick 2. To the rest of the round, Kane, you spoke about that derby, and we'll get to the other games, but massive outs. Luke Ryan out for the Dockers. Brennan Cox has been cleared to play. Shannon Hearn is going to miss with another calf setback.
Yeah, Shannon Hearn is out, which happened at the captain's run today. Josh Kennedy has been cleared to play, so he'll play. What about the game in the middle there at the MCG, Essendon and Carlton? The ramifications for the Blues, particularly if they dropped that one, they made a statement at selection with Preskrevsky Seaton going out, so they just have to respond and they have to keep their season alive. Otherwise, David Teague is going to be the second coach under pressure like Nathan Buckley.
And Nathan Jones dropped the week after his 300th game. To our one more thing, Kane, we all love a specky, and this guy's done it before on the big stage, but he's still doing it at the ripe old age of his mid-30s.
Yeah, it's the Poppy. He's playing for Norwood in the Sample. Friday night football, Norwood knocked off South Adelaide. Paul Priopolo getting upstairs and turning back the clock. What a little champion he was for the Hawks, and strutting his stuff from the club that he was drafted from.
I think he could get picked up in the mid-season draft.
Well, he might.
Potentially. All right, Kane, see you same time, same place here on the round so far next week.
See you later, mate.